Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. This video would be covering other essential Linux terminal fundamentals. These commands would allow you to work with the Linux environment far more better. Moreover, you will be able to manage files far more efficiently. So let's get started. I'm working on the directory called YouTube for the purposes of this video, and this directory basically has a folder called demo and a file called touchfile.txt which I have created for the purposes of this demonstration. If you are a beginner, I would suggest you to install Windows subsystem for Linux on your Windows 11. However, if you are a Ubuntu user, you are golden. However, if you are a beginner and you are slightly hesitant to install uh, anything with regards to this, I would suggest using an online emulator. Terminal Temple is fine for this sort of purposes. Anyway, let's get started. The first command that I would be talking about would be the command called uname. This command basically gives us basic system information. You can basically get this kind of data by simply typing uname into the terminal. However, in this scenario, you see that it only returns the name of the Linux operating system, which is not kind of helpful. However, if you want to get more details, you would basically attach it with a flag called -a. When you do that, you get information about the kernel, the machine host name, version of the kernel, the architecture, and more. This is helpful for you to understand the specific environment that you're working in. Moreover, if you want to troubleshoot and need to check some compatibility issues with the software that you're running on a specific version of Linux, under that scenario, you will be particularly using this. The next command is ls. The ls command basically lists file and directories. Using ls alone will allow you to see the visible files in a particular present working directory, as I had already demonstrated. But you can also see certain hidden files. If you type ls-a, the flag -a basically shows off the other hidden files. These hidden files basically are the configuration files. They basically are present in the current working directory. Usually, as a beginner, you don't need to work with them, but if you are working with configuration files, you will be executing this sort of a command. Another command is locate. The locate command is interesting because by default on your Windows subsystem for Linux, it will not be installed. So under that scenario, you will be using sudo apt install plocate or mlocate. In this case, I have already installed it. You should enter your file, and yeah, as I said, it was, I have already installed it. Another thing is that you can also try a different version of locate called mlocate. So yeah, it's in my case it's already available. Let's say I have a file called hidden file.txt and I want to locate this file. If I write locate hidden file.txt, you would see the location of that particular txt file shown in the terminal. So the entire path beginning from the root till the file where it is located has been listed. This kind of a feature is highly useful if you want to find where a specific file is located in a large file directory system. It's not always possible for you to remember each and every detail with regards to the specific location. For example, after a certain amount of time, you might be forgetting that and you might not remember. So under that scenario, you will be using this. One other important detail is that if you modify any file, such as create a new file, let's say I make a new file called file.txt. So let's move into demo. Let me say I can go back into this location. Let's say I make a new file called file.txt, and I guess I move back outside into the root. The thing is, if you try to execute the locate command for searching this particular file, it will not show up anything because Linux has something called as update DB, which basically keeps track of any of these changes. So this is something, it's a pre-built index which basically remembers all of these changes and you need to update it. The issue is, if for you to do that, you have to run something called a sudo update db. Depending on the size of your system, file directory system, it might take different amounts of time. In this case, I'm executing it. Welcome back. Depending on the size of your entire file system directory, it might take a longer time. As we were talking, if you try to execute locate file text.txt, this would return the entire file path from the root till the location where the file text.txt is located. This is because it would re-index all the information related to the latest changes and modifications that you have done within the entire system, and that is reflected within the update DB. This is pretty neat and nifty kind of a command which would allow you to basically find any file or text document that you might have made and may have forgotten the particular location. Yeah, let's move on to the next command, which is called touch command. The touch command basically is used for creating empty files. In this case, let's say if I create empty.txt, it would basically be empty. If I try to write to check the contents of empty.txt, basically you get nothing because there are no contents within it. This basically is an empty file. You can basically also update the timestamp of existing files, which can be useful for scheduling certain processes based on the modification. The next command that we will be diving into would be the command called ln. The ln command basically allows you to create links. These are basically essential for creating hard and symbolic links. Let's say I have this file called empty.txt and I want to create a new link between empty.txt and some other file called file copy.txt. In this scenario, I have made a hard link which shares the same inode number with the original file. This means any changes to the file empty.txt will be reflected back in file copy.txt. Let's say if I write certain information into empty.txt, I can type this is an empty file. Control D to exit. And now if you check the contents of empty file.txt, you would see that same change has been reflected, but these same changes would be there within file copy.txt. This is because we have created a hard link which basically tracks these changes. So you can see this is highly useful in order for you to create certain backups of particular files. So all these changes, and you can also see the link from hard link and file copy is basically 2. So you can see that since we created a hard link, that basically is also reflected within the system. Let's say if you want to make a symbolic link. So what's a symbolic link? Symbolic link or soft link basically works as a shortcut to the original file. It basically points to certain changes which might be made to the original file. Let's say I create a new file, let's say touch file soft link txt, and let's say I create a new link between. So for that you will always use the tag -s and empty.txt, the file that we are interested in, and let's link it with file softlink.txt. Yeah, another interesting detail that I wanted to mention is that whenever you create these links, it's not necessary that you have to make a pre-existing file for this. In order, it will be created on spot. Let's say, yeah, let's just rename this to softlink.txt, and let's try to see if the changes are reflected in the system. We can see the softlink.txt now points to this particular empty.txt, and this is pretty useful as it basically reflects these changes. But if you try to remove this particular file empty.txt and then you try to see contents, you see that now it has changed color. So this basically now becomes a broken link, which is unlike a hard link. So now it does point to that file definitely, but this has been moved and or deleted. Under that scenario, only this basically happens. So this is pretty nifty, and it basically allows you to keep track of changes that you or any other user might make. It is particularly useful if you want to make sure that you have a backup of specific changes that you want to basically keep a track of. Yeah, so let's now move on to the next command. I have already demonstrated this particular command, which is called cat command. So cat command basically is a shortened version of concatenate. This command is pretty versatile. You can basically write into a new file. Let's say I write back into file copy.txt, and like this is a demonstration of the cat command. Control D twice in order to exit this. So now if you want to confirm whether the content has been returned back into file copy, you just write file cat file copy.txt. So you see that the instructions that we have written to the particular file has been reflected back. Another different way of using this is that you can also try to write back into another file and concatenate these two files together. Let's say if you write file soft link, which we earlier created, .txt, let's say this is written into file soft link.txt, and then we execute. Control D. Let's say we have the changes reflected. Another nifty tool that you can use is basically the arrow keys on your keyboard. You can move up and down basically in order to not repeat the typing steps. You can just go back to the old command and make certain changes. In this case, we are trying to just see if the changes that we made have been reflected. If we write it, you see that it is there. So as I had mentioned, cat command is particularly nifty as it allows you to basically concatenate two files together. Let's say I'm concatenating the file copy.txt and the contents of file softlink.txt into a new file called file concatenated.txt. Let's see if it has been created. You see that file concatenated.txt has been created. Let's see what's the content. Again, I would highly recommend you to always use the arrow keys in order to go back to previous commands and make the modification in order to skip the time. So you see that this has been concatenated. So this is pretty interesting. It is a highly versatile command, cat command. Definitely I would ask you to use it. Another interesting command is the pipe command. The pipe command basically allows you to pass the output of one command into another command. Let's say that I just want to highlight the particular word commands if it is available within file concatenated.txt. So in this scenario, I would write cat file concatenated. Another interesting thing I would like to say is that if you have written the name of the file, let's say I have written file con, let's say, since this has been written, if you click tab button, it will autofill the entire term. So you again can save a little bit of time. Not much, but since you will be working on larger systems, as an advanced user and an intermediate user, you should know this. Let's say if I do pep, I'm trying to get hold of the term commands from this file. In this case, I would be passing the output, which is I'm reading the contents of file concatenated.txt, and I'm trying to see if the word command is there or not. It will grab this particular word. So as you can see, it hasn't been highlighted. The cat command and the grep command can be therefore be used along with the pipe command in a versatile manner in order to do several different things. This is just a beginner tutorial, so you get a brief understanding of how and what kind of things are possible. Using grep, this allows you to basically get hold of specific information within large files. Now let's go towards the process command. PS command basically is the command which basically shows you the list of active processes. Basically, if you try PS and enter, in this case you would basically be shown the current processes which are running. In this case, that's our bash terminal and the command that we just executed. Each of this, as you can see, there are three columns. In this case, it's basically a simple list. Basically, it has the process ID, the terminal, and the CPU time. The CMD basically is the command name, that is the bash, and the PS command that we just used. However, if you want to see all the processes which are running in your system, basically pair it with another flag called aux. So we write ps aux. As you can see, like all the processes has been listed. This basically is a large list. This can only be useful for advanced users who are basically monitoring a system performance or trying to understand which resources are being consumed by which process, and if you want to curtail that. So yeah, so it's a you can basically get hold of n number of flags to be used along with these commands. So you might be wondering, where are these flags coming from? Where do I get hold of this kind of information? Well, worry not, my friend. All of this information basically can be accessed by the use of a particular manual, and this manual is already pre-installed in all Linux systems. These are basically called as man pages. So let's say if I want to get hold of the commands manually, for example, let's say the process command, I'm trying to get hold of information regards to that, like what are the new changes or the updates or new flags which I can basically use. So you basically type man ps. In this case, this basically is paired with any command that you might be using. So in this scenario, I can basically also type man ls, so all the information associated with that would be listed. Let's say in this case, man ls I executed. It might take some time. Yeah, as you can see, the man page for the ls command has been listed. It basically gives you a little bit of a synopsis and other list of information, such as the flags that you can use, as I have already demonstrated. ls-a, you can basically of all the other files which are present, which might be hidden, and there are n number of flags which you can use, and hence you get a brief idea as to how you can start getting your hands dirty with all of these commands and other flags. So yeah, so this is highly useful, and as for now, I guess this wraps up this episode of Linux Basics. We have already covered 8 powerful commands: uname, ls, locate, touch, ln, cat, process, and man. Yeah, and obviously I have also demonstrated certain other commands as well. But yeah, These commands basically have different options and other use cases. If you master these, you will be able to use the Linux command line far more efficiently. And I hope you enjoyed. So yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Bye.